What's good, people? Today I'm going to show you guys a full low volume upper body workout here in Hong Kong. Specifically, I'm going to be doing at most 2 sets per exercise, which means I'm going to be training pretty close to failure and really upping that intensity high. And generally, if you're a beginner, I don't recommend you doing a high intensity, low volume split because it does require you to pretty much train very close to failure, if not all the way to failure. Then perhaps this can be a great way to save time as well as continue to progressive overload. Now, jumping right in, we're gonna be starting with an incline barbell bench press. I'm just gonna be warming up first. So let me speed run through this warm up. Now, as you notice, I'm not in my home gym currently because I'm here in Hong Kong for a few days. Specifically, I'm training at Pure Fitness in the K11 Mall on the Kowloon side of Hong Kong. So a little shout out to them for letting me film here. This is gonna be the last warm-up set. And because I'm only gonna be doing like 2 sets for this exercise, ideally I wanna end up being at around RIR1, between 5 to 10 reps. So the weight should be relatively heavy. This will be my last warm-up set. I'm probably gonna up it to 205. All right, I'm gonna have to adjust my mic for this working set so it don't get in the way. And what are we gonna be rocking today for this working set? I'm gonna be listening to this. A little quick 205 for 4. Like, that was a bit heavy. I think I've grown a little too accustomed to the kg weight since I've been in Thailand for a month. So that 205 was definitely too heavy. But I think this is good. So when something like this happens where I only got 4 reps and is technically on the bottom of my rep range, I'm definitely not gonna be getting to 5 in my second set. What I do is I lower the weight, make sure I rest like at least 3 minutes and see if I can hit that bottom of the rep range with a slightly lighter weight. More time for set number 2. Maybe it was the song that kind of messed me up too. Had I been playing something else, maybe I would have went for that 5th rep. I think we're gonna switch up and play this. Ooh. It's been a good day to have a spotter. So, contrary to what you guys might think, I don't train to failure on every single exercise. On something like this where I probably should have a spotter, I generally only take the set to like RIR1, but then you'll see on the later exercises, usually a smaller isolation exercise that's super stable, that's usually a machine or a cable, I wouldn't have a problem taking all the way to failure. Okay, moving on to the second exercise. All right, the second movement, I can unzip my quarter zip now. Much better. We're gonna be using the seal row, but we're not gonna be actually doing a row here. Instead, I'm gonna be doing a Kelso shrug, which you can think of as pretty much a shrug done from a row position. So all I'm gonna be focusing on here is retracting my scapula back, squeezing my shoulder blades together, and letting them come apart as so. Just like that. So a very short range motion, but the reason why I'm doing this over a row right now is I've unfortunately been dealing with some sort of like weird rhomboid strain, which always seems to get exacerbated when I do some sort of pronated grip row. But when experimenting with the Kelso shrug, I noticed that I'm not getting that pain. So for now, this is gonna be my bread and butter horizontal pulling exercise. And technically speaking, if your goal is to train the traps / mid-back, in some ways this exercise will be superior over a row because you're not gonna be involving as much rear delt, biceps, forearms, and other muscle groups in this movement. But also means I'm gonna need to cover the remainder of my back elsewhere, which we can get that done. I think I can raise this higher, but I think instead of putting the 45-pound plates, I'm just gonna use these 25s. All right, set number 3. See how this feels. Ooh, working set done. That was probably closer to RIR 2-3, but because this exercise is relatively newer, it's good to keep the RIR a little bit higher up. Also, the biggest limiting factor on a shrug movement is usually gonna be your grip. Since you generally can handle a very heavy load doing a shrug, but your grip on the other hand tends to give out. So ideally, you wanna be using some sort of lifting straps when you're doing this movement, but personally, I just don't like using lifting straps, which is admittedly very suboptimal for me. But at the end of the day, I do believe when it comes to seeing results in fitness, the Pareto principle still applies. If you train hard, if you focus on progressive overload, and you train various movement patterns, you're bound to see results. In other words, you don't need everything to be perfect. And the big one being supplementation. Personally, I'm like a supplement minimalist. I usually don't like taking a whole lot of supplements. I keep it very simple. Protein powder, if I feel like my protein intake's too low. Creatine as a recommendation for anyone who's trying to maximize muscle growth and has been already training consistently. And for those times that you want to lock in, maybe caffeine can do the trick. But if you want any of these supplements, or you just want to support my continued delivery of these videos, then I recommend My Protein as the supplement company of choice. And you can use code TYLRPath to get, I believe right now, anywhere between 40 to 51% off, which is a pretty hefty discount. All right, let's go with the second set of steel rows. Remember, the idea is squeeze the shoulder blades back and let them come apart. Move on to the third exercise. All right, so next thing we have is a lat pull down, but I'm not gonna be using this mag grip as my grip tends to be a limiting factor on the movement. Instead, I'm gonna use the regular lat pull down bar, but because I still wanna get that sagittal pull, meaning pulling with my arms in front of my body, what I'm simply gonna do is take a shoulder width grip and have me finish with my arms in front of my body like this. This is still pretty much mimicking the arm path of the mag grip, but of course, with just a stronger grip compared to this thing. Let's warm up. Feel good. I think we're gonna be doing 90. This will be my working set. Okay, so let me give a couple quick tips on the lat pull down. So first off, the key thing we're trying to train here is gonna be shoulder extension. That's essentially how we bias for lats in the first place. So in my opinion, what happens that your elbow joint doesn't really matter. All I really try to focus on is getting my elbow down to the side of my body. But you notice that as you fatigue on the lat pull down, you kind of lose range of motion, meaning it becomes harder for you to get your elbow all the way down to your side. So then comes the question, well, how do you know when you actually reach failure? Is failure when you can't come all the way down here? Is it when you can't come down here? Like, how high do you call it? But the truth is, if you're trying to track long-term progressive overload, you just have to standardize it. So literally, you just choose a point in the arm path. Once I can't go below a certain point, we end the set there. That's it. Or you don't count the reps after that, which for me is a lot more clear if you're doing a wide grip lat pull down. But once I get to the point where I can't bring my elbow below 90 degrees here, that's my cutoff point to end the set. So I think it is time to take the pump cover off for the second set. All right, so I'm actually gonna turn this exercise into an omni grip, meaning for the second set, I'm gonna be changing the grip I had from the first set. Instead, this time opting for a wider grip so I can pull more in the frontal plane with my arms out by the side of my body like this, which compared to what I did earlier when pulling it from my body. So think of this as upper lat biasing, this as a lower lat biasing. But also remember that this is marginal differences in biasing. So I'm not isolating my lower lats over here with no upper lat activation. No, it's just, technically speaking, the lower lats should be a little bit more involved. Also a little tip for those that have a weak grip on this exercise, I don't like just gripping bar here. I try to get an overhand grip, almost like a false grip kind of thing, just because it's gonna be a little bit more sturdy. Here we go. Okay, exercise is over. Moving on to the next exercise. So I'm gonna make this next shot pretty quick because I am in a highly dense area. What we're gonna be doing is a cross-body tricep extension. So instead of doing a traditional tricep push down with a rope in front of your body, I prefer to do it single-armed and having a slight flare in my elbow, as in my opinion feels a lot more comfortable on the shoulder joint when you're extending the elbow in the scapular plane. Let's get into it. And the last movement we're gonna be finishing off with is gonna be a preacher curl. Now there's only one preacher curl at this gym, so I have to use this makeshift bench for it instead, but you know, it still works out except for down here. So I'm hoping with my working weight, the thing doesn't branch out too wide so that I can still at least fully extend my elbow. Feeling pretty good. And if it does, maybe I'll just ask to work it. All right, so let's see how this feels. I think maybe I can make it work. You know, I think what I have to do is raise the bench up slightly. Now I shouldn't run into the issue, but the only downside for doing it this way is the resistance profile is gonna be slightly less length and focused. All right, so last exercise of the day. Let's get it. And that was the low volume upper body workout for the day. Hopefully I showed you guys that you actually don't need to do a ton of volume to have a good workout as long as you keep the intensity high. With that said, hit the like button. It's the best way to support my page for free. Hit subscribe if you want to level up your physique. If you do want to further support my page, consider checking out my clothing sponsor, Able. They make high quality gym wear. And you can use code PATH to get 10% off. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.